If you have a VA disability rating of 70, 80, 90%, and you're trying to get into the Hundo Club, which way do you go? The easy way or the hard way? I have an idea. Let's talk to a lawyer about it. We're going to be talking about 100% the hard way versus 100% the easy way. How's that sound, Matt?
That sounds good. I mean, but you're trusting a lawyer to do math. So that's everybody understand that before we jump in.
Yeah, yep, and VA math at that. So, yeah, basically, I talk about VA unemployability, TDIU, as do you, and I don't think we can talk about it enough, but let's just kind of focus on people that are, 70, 80, 90%, and they know they deserve to be at 100. They're just, whatever, we don't pay for this, we don't pay for that. That's pyramiding. TDIU is a real option if your service-connected disabilities prevent you from working. Would you agree with that assessment?
I'm going to agree with you for once. It's the holiday season. I'm going to be charitable. I'm with you.
You're being generous. You even showed up. You got your headset on. You got your hair combed and shit. This whole different ballgame. One of the pieces about this is the vocational expert, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. So. Normally,
let's back up because usually you jump way the hell ahead. All right, so let's talk about easy way, hard way. Okay, you were talking about vets with 80%, 90%. These are the guys I see all the time. They're saying, "Hey, I just want to get 100% so I can get, as you said, all these other benefits to which they're entitled." But I kind of think of 80%, 90%. It's like a football game. You get inside the 10, and the other team gets a 15-yard penalty, but you only get halfway to the goal. And then you get another penalty on those bastards, and you get halfway to the goal, and it's like you're getting closer, but you never get there. And that's how VA math screws vets up, and they don't know it. And VA gets them chasing after what I consider the wrong thing. So let's just do a little math here. Okay, let's say you get all your combined ratings and you're 88%. Okay, that's going to round up to 90. Well, let's say you pop another 50 on top of that. Let's say you get a sleep apnea rating for 50%.
Still at 90.
You know what? Yeah, still a 90 because that's going to get you, I think, rounded up to 94%, which gets rounded down. So it's like the closer you get, the harder it is. To get to, if you are a straight 90, you still got to find another 50% rating. And if you are a 90% rated, that means you got a lot of stuff going on, and they probably caught all the big things. So, going back to Greg said, it's like this is the hard way. If you are trying to get this and that and this and that to get up to 100, you can do it for sure. But the VA is going to make you pay for it, pound of flesh at a time, and most likely cut off past due benefits you're entitled to.
Yeah, so, they're going to be taking them away just as quickly as that one crucial point, like, oh, you don't have that anymore, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be looking ways to save money for them, frankly, keep your money. And so, the closer you get, the harder it is. But back to what Craig was saying, it's like the unemployability. If you're at a 90% and you're working full time, no sheltered aspect of it, that's pretty damn impressive. I don't see that a lot. I see people who are at 90% and they are seriously hurting. And so that goes back to unemployability. And the beauty of that is it bridges the gap. You could be 60% for one rating, you could be 70 for a couple ratings, and you can bridge all the way up to 100, being paid at 100, and getting all those benefits that Craig talks about on his videos for the additional P&T benefits. Yep. So that's the big thing. And so then we go back to what you were talking about with the
vocational assessment.
Experts. There you go.
So, yeah, basically you're at one level of 90, either 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, rounded up to 90 or 91, 92, 93, 94, rounded down to 90. It's all 90, and it's all hard. Getting a vocational expert involved, what can a vocational expert do that the VA doesn't really have a response for, other than they don't have a vocational expert to rebut you ever, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about first what they can't do, because this is important.
Okay. The name of the game, ladies and gentlemen, is strategy. Strategy is what I teach in my boot camp. Check that out. CombatCraig.com. Links in the description.
Once you're in that range for unemployability, meaning there's a couple different rules here. 38 CFR 4.116 kind of lays out what they are. But basically, let's say you have one disability at 60% or a bunch of different disabilities 70% or higher. Okay, you are in that range for unemployability. If you are there, then you go to the vocational expert, and what they do, it's a work of art. Basically, what their expertise is saying, okay, here's looking at your past work, looking at your educational history, here's the skills you have, and here's where those skills would apply in the labor force. And then they say, okay, well, here's where you live. Let's figure out what kind of jobs there are in that area that you would be eligible for. And once they do that, they say, okay, here's the jobs you'd be eligible for. Now let's graft on top of that. Let's put on top of that the disabilities and the symptoms you have that would basically prevent you from working. And they take it symptom by symptom. They'd say, if you're in a sedentary job, you'd still have to be able to walk, 10 minutes, 15 minutes an hour, but your back prevents you from doing that. Or your back prevents you from sitting for 50 minutes an hour. You have such pain all day. Well, you're not going to be able to concentrate, 50 minutes an hour that you're supposed to. And they really lay it out detail by detail. And what Craig was saying there was what the VA doesn't do is they're too lazy. They won't go detail by detail on what your former job required and what you can't do anymore. Right. And honestly, these VEs it's just a work of art. I mean, it can be 5 pages, it can be 10 pages, but it really gets into you and your specifics, which the VA is supposed to do. They're not supposed to say, well, the general veteran.
Duty to maximize, duty to assist. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you get one of these in your record, and are you going to get denied at the RO? Probably. Will you have to go to the BVA? Maybe. But if you have a strong opinion, there is nothing they can do in their C&P exams. And
right. And they're going to send you to a C&P exam, and it's going to prove nothing because you're making a vocational argument against a doctor. And this is a good segue. So the doctor, and I was just talking about this last night in my boot camp with somebody, and I just never really thought about it this way. So the doctor will put a 10-pound lifting restriction on you. Right. They just pull that out of their ass. I don't even know how they're actually able to make that call, because they certainly aren't going, all right, Craig, here's 8 pounds. How do you do with 8 pounds? Here's 9.25 pounds. Oh, 10.18. There's none of that shit's going on. They just throw out like 10 arbitrary, not arbitrary, but I don't know if it's 5. 10's one of them. Maybe 20 is another one. How do doctors even get away with that? Do you know?
I totally agree it's arbitrary, but what a good vocational expert will do is take their arbitrary numbers. Because here's the thing. They will send you to a C&P exam for your back. But they send you to a separate one for your diabetes and then for your depression. So there's no C&P examiner that's looking at the total picture. So each examiner will give little restrictions, say, oh, he only left 10 pounds, or, oh, he has trouble concentrating, or, his diabetes require him to go to the doctor, 4 times a month or whatever. And what the vocational expert will do is say, okay, VA, these are your restrictions. This is what you said.
These are your words. This is them.
And they will use that against them.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it is beautiful because the VA is going to try to backtrack and say, we didn't mean this, but in the end, it's like, hey, this are your words, and here's the lay statement from the veteran. What are you going to do?
Right. And you're back at the C&P exam, same rater, same C&P examiner.
Right.
Now, Mr. C&P examiner, you're fighting against your own words, and no matter how much you soft pedal it, he'll just go use whatever words you say. It's the same thing. It's just flipping the script. Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
One important thing with a vocational expert, one thing they cannot do. Okay, let's say you have PTSD and you have a rating at 50%, and you're appealing that rating, and it's obvious that you should be getting 70%. You have anger outbursts. You hate bosses telling you what to do. You don't want to be around anybody. You have problems with thinking about suicide. That's clearly a 70% rating, which boom would get you into the unemployability. And a vocational expert cannot give a medical opinion to get a higher rating.
Right.
They can only give an opinion to get you unemployability. So you have to have that base rating already. Okay.
Yes.
If you're in that situation I'm talking about, you're going to have to go with a psychologist, psychiatrist to get you the 70%, and then have them give the opinion to say, okay, this is why you can't work. So just always keep that in mind.
Yeah. And good distinction. That's what So there's a burden of proof that you have to do. You're at the 70, 80, 90. You have the rating you have. Instead of more nexus letters and more intertwined arguments and stuff, get the vocational expert and let him just take it from there, because the VA has already said enough.
Exactly.
Damaging evidence. To vocational expert, it's a work of art. I agree with you. So that's the hard way versus the easy way. So one thing people kind of are concerned about are the restrictions, the working restrictions. My argument is, just from living this my whole life and getting fired from every single job I've ever had since in my adult life, like, dude, you're never working. Like, you're kidding yourself. You're barely holding it together. Like, in the long run, you're going to unravel. That's basically why this is there. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the when you get confronted with that, like, I don't want to go the TDIU route because I want to be able to work or whatever.
Yeah, I get a lot of younger vets coming to us saying, hey, I don't want to be TDIU, I don't want to work. And then I look at their past, they get out of service 3 years ago, they haven't worked since then. And I'll say, look, with those folks, they're young, I get it. They want to be able to be in the environment, the work environment. And what I will say to them is say, let's process this claim for TDIU. Meanwhile, if you want to go try work, great. But they owe you benefits going back because you haven't worked because of this. And at the end of the day, if we get them the benefits, they get the retro, and at that point they get a good job that they can take, great. They tell the VA, I don't want, they don't want that TDIU benefit, and they go to work. Now, for the vets you're talking about, kind of like in your scenario where they already have the IU and they're like, well, I want to be able to work, or what are the restrictions? If you work and it's under the poverty line, you can do that. I mean, this is just another one of VA's misnomers. Unemployability doesn't mean you can't work. It just means a couple things. You're under the employment line. You're self-employed. Okay. You're your own boss. You feel like working today. You don't feel like working tomorrow. You don't take crap from anybody. You make your own schedule. Well, if we were to take you making your own schedule and say, well, how would that work in the competitive environment for you working for somebody else?
Pretty pathetically, right?
Yeah, it ain't going to work at all.
Right.
And so there are things you can do. You can work. It's not like Social Security disability. You're either working or you're not.
Right.
But yeah, you can't go out, do a full-time job, have no restrictions at all. At that point, the VA would come after you. But you can always drop it too. Let's say you feel better, you're in a better situation, you go back to work. I say go back to work because if you're just you're just collecting unemployability, and especially when you're young, that's not what you want to be. But
it's the bird in hand concept, right? You got yourself up to 80, you can't move anymore. Get TDIU, put it in your pocket, and try it on and see how it feels in there. And if a year from now somehow you magically improve, which guess what, youngsters, it doesn't get better with age, but whatever, I get it. Give it a shot. And then if it doesn't work out, you still have the TDIU thing. And that's a good distinction too. Good advice is get yourself into a protected environment if you're going to do this test. So don't go get a W-2 job. Start your own business. If you need to appeal your VA claim, check out Hill and Ponton at hillandponton.com. See if they can help you out. Also, if you're at Camp Lejeune between 53 and 87, you may be eligible for additional benefits. Links for both of those are in the description. Don't forget to sign up for my boot camp if you want to learn more about my process, which is the VA claims process. You're going to need medical evidence to win your VA claim. If you're missing a diagnosis, severity of your symptoms, or a nexus, and your doctor won't do it for you, send an email to Second Strata and see if they can help you with your missing medical evidence.